Call this gathering to order. Thank you all for coming. 6 o'clock here on Tuesday, September 29th, near the end of the month. I'd like to ask everybody, please rise for an invocation and pledge allegiance. Let us bow our heads. Oh, Heavenly Father, as we begin our work this evening, I ask that you remember all those who worked so hard for this island, keeping this a beautiful place to visit and a wonderful place to live. We ask that you guide us tonight and every day so that we may continue to keep this a safe, nurturing community, and so that we may be good stewards of this island for generations to come. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Marie, please call the roll.
Councilmember Burgore.
Here.
Councilmember McCaffrey.
Here.
Councilmember Buchanan.
Here.
Councilmember Carroll.
Here.
Councilmember Wynn.
Here.
Councilmember Harrington.
Here.
Councilmember Loftus.
Yo.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Mayor Cronin.
Present.
Administrator Tucker.
Here.
and Attorney Howard.
Here.
Thank you all for coming. Next item on our agenda, reading of the journal of previous meeting minutes. You received in your package the regular meeting for August 25th and the special meeting on September 10th. May I have a motion to
Move for approval.
Second.
Second and seconded. Any discussion, corrections, additions? No?
There's also included September.
I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You also received today, this evening, on your desk, the minutes for Tuesday, September 22nd. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to read them. If you want to hold that approval till next month, we can do that. If there's no motion to move on it tonight, we'll hold it till next month. Okay. Now we're into a pleasure part of the journey. We're going to swear in Desiree. Yes, you're going to have to come stand up.
She survived Ways and Means. She's already got her.
Trial by fire.
That's it.
Right hand.
Raise the That's the first test. Yeah, right from left. You're going to have to repeat after me. You ready for this?
Yes.
I, Desiree Bargoso,
I, Desiree Barbosa,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I am duly qualified,
that I am duly qualified,
according to the ordinances
according to the ordinances
of the City of Isle Palm,
of the City of Isle Palms,
to perform the duties
to perform the duties
of the position
of the position
to which I have been selected,
to which I have been selected,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my abilities,
to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof.
discharge the duties thereof.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome. If you don't know it, Desiree's a native of San Juan. I'm not sure how long you've been away.
5 years.
5 years, right? All right. And your husband now lives in Mount Pleasant. He's in the Navy, serving in the Submariner.
Yeah. That's Marty's old gig.
And you're currently nearing completion of your MPA
At the College of Charleston.
at the College of Charleston. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to the team. All right. Okay. Citizens' comments. I'm going to make a comment before I ask others, and that is, we have approved, as a city-sponsored event, the filming of vice principals that will commence the beginning of next week in the Front Beach area and the 900 block of Ocean. So if you see film crews, film people, you know what it's all about, and it's well vetted by the city staff and everyone else. So hopefully weather works in their favor and we have a good occasion for them to film here. All right, other citizens' comments. Moving to the front.
I'll be brief.
Yeah.
Jim Rye, 3904 Cameron Boulevard, Isle of Palms. I recently sent an email to the council members in total, and it was in regards to the new construction that's taking place on the island. And I think it's going to be the greatest challenge for the next 20 years for the island is to maintain some kind of balance during and after the construction of the new construction that's replacing the first generation homes on the island. And I think it's very important that our building department and everybody stay really on top of the elevation of the new construction. There's obviously low-lying areas on the island, and one only has to drive around after a heavy rainstorm to realize that if one person builds up greater than they should build up on their lot for new construction, it's going to change the balance of the whole block. So, not saying that I want to penalize those who have not built since the first generation homes out here, but I think it's very critical that we really stay on top of the management of the elevation of the first floor of the residence going up. So I asked the members to go out and take a look at 2 examples. I don't know if you had an opportunity to do that or not, but on both occasions I think that they're pushing the envelope, if not over the edge of what legally should be done on the property. One in particular, I think that they put up orange barricades around the trees, but they've totally disrespected them in every sense of the word. That, I mean, they might as well have not even to put them up to begin with. So I just think that it's important that I know that inspectors can't be there every day, but I think it's very important for the citizens of the island to really keep an eye on the new construction. It's not so much as the square footage and the lot coverage and the size of the building, but it's the flood management of the land on the island. And everybody knows that every truckload of dirt that's hauled in is going to have a negative impact on somebody. So I just encourage you to keep a close eye on that as we move forward. I think that there's a lot of homes out here that are first generation homes that are going to be redeveloped over the next 20 years. And having been in the real estate development business for 25 years, it's something that you really have to keep a close eye on. And it's sad, but if we have to stop construction on a particular spot or tell people they have to tear up their foundation, that's what they need to do. I just think that we can't let this issue go on without really keeping eyes on it, and I appreciate your time tonight.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Keep feeding us if you see others. Keep feeding us. We like to stay on top of it as well.
Mr. Mayor?
Can I, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Can I ask Douglas a question on that?
Sure.
As well? Hey, Douglas, if you may. I know the city had, to try to curtail this problem in the past, we passed an ordinance which you had to have engineered plans or water runoff for any type of amount. What is the enforcement for that as, per se, from when it first starts as, or going into, let's say, a CO at the end of the project? I mean, how do you know if they haven't, like Jim had mentioned, you know, inspector's not there all the time, but, you know, you have a drainage management program or runoff program. Let's just say they're not going to bring in more.
Right. So just to kind of start at the beginning of the whole sequence of events, a developer, an owner, a contractor cannot change the grade outside of the footprint of their house without a stormwater management plan that has to be developed by a design professional, which in the state of South Carolina is either a landscape architect or a civil engineer. So before they bring fill in, they have to do those two. They have to submit that plan to me, has to be approved, and then prior to a CO, they have to have that design professional certify that it was done in accordance with that plan. I will say that requirement is unique to the City of Isle of Palms. So we review plans. We stamp on the site plan that shows, we stamp on there that you cannot change the grades unless this step is gone through. And I'll say that routinely we find people that have, you know, claim they didn't see the note. Because it is an unusual practice, it's not kind of first and foremost on a lot of builders' lists of things. So people do get caught by it pretty frequently. But when we find it, either by, I would say that we generally are called. One of the sites that Mr. Rye is referring to, we received 4 phone calls about the trucks of fill that were being dumped on it, and they had done, that was a case where they had done the appropriate planning, and they had the approved plan, and they had done the appropriate steps. So that's the way it works. The code does address it. I would say that the bulk of the people out here developing may not be aware of that code, and it comes up pretty routinely.
The whole intent of having a plan is so that a builder or homeowner does not shed his stormwater onto adjacent properties, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
And an adjacent property is also the road. He can't shed water onto the road surface.
Yes.
Or neighbors.
That's right.
So-
he has to address every property side, the road side, any drainage systems that are adjacent to him, and his property, his neighboring properties.
But as we all can suspect and probably know, in the past, people have built homes and shed water onto the vacant lot next door, which became a collection area. And now that person is now the one who wants to build on his lot, and he's been collecting the water from his associated neighbors, and now that becomes a bigger problem. Because
The plan, when these plans are done, they typically do result in a fairly good-sized mound of earth next to these houses, but they then design a series of swales and channels to run the water into an appropriate place. So a lot of neighboring concern still comes to us. Hey, this thing is still a foot higher than my house. So it is a challenge, to explain to those people that is in accordance with the plan. The plan is that it's up higher because a lot of these last lots are literally kind of down in holes, so people do have to elevate them up. So it's a challenging. We're flat, and any little change in the topography does result in a change to the stormwater system of the surrounding area. So it does have its challenges.
okay, thank you. Any others?
Excuse me.
Yeah, Michael?
Lloyd Douglas is here. Thank you, Mayor. Is the plan sound, or do we need to go back and tweak the plan? Because, I've seen this even in my own neighborhood. I see a new house that was built. It was on a lower lot, and they brought in a lot of fill, and it's still elevated. The property's elevated higher than their next door neighbor, so every time we get a significant rain, they're getting, washed out, basically. And, I'm wondering, are we too generous with that number, or should we go back and tweak that number? And maybe I'd like to suggest that's something that the Planning Commission can look at, and it's always good to validate and just make sure we're on target.
I would say that, and in our discussions about actually, because I think what you're getting at is setting a definitive level, to which you cannot exceed 8 inches, 1 foot, whatever it may be. And that was kind of the approach that originally was discussed when this problem came up, and it may be 10 years ago now. And at the time, and I think this is probably still true, the people in my position, the people on the Planning Commission, are probably not capable of doing an engineering elevation and saying, in any situation you can never be higher than 12 inches above the existing grade. I think the idea was, let's defer it to the design professionals. They're all licensed. They have, their livelihood depends on, and we have routine conversations with these designers. You need to be aware that you putting that certification statement there, stamping it, and signing that it's not going to adversely impact the neighbor, they're to some extent putting their livelihood on the line by doing that. So I think they take it very seriously. I've never had a situation where somebody did that plan and the neighbors came back and said, we have a problem. So I don't remember the details of the house you're talking about, but we've never had one person come to us and say, hey, they followed the letter of the law, they did the plan, they did everything as the code specified, but we still had a problem. And I'm not saying that it hasn't happened, because it may be that your neighbor it has happened, but I've never been made aware of a problem after the fact.
Okay, thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Jimmy?
Yes, sir. I think you would like to suspend the rules of order and entertain item 9, bills already in possession of council at this time.
I'll
Second?
second that.
All right, motion and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're up to item 9 on our agenda, second reading ordinance 2015-11. Ordinance, well, you know what it is. GC2 and GC3 parking requirements. I'm going to make a motion to approve second reading and suspend the reading of the ordinance.
Just one quick thing to add, it has been amended since first reading, so this version is the amended version. Just make sure that your motion includes approval of the amended version of this.
All right, I'll move to approve the amended version.
And the amendment is what is highlighted. In the public hearing.
I'll second that motion.
All right.
It's in section 54113, section H. We just changed it from GC3 to all commercial districts, so that's the change since first reading.
All right, I'll make that amendment.
I'll second it.
Yeah,
And second.
it's been motioned. and
Okay. Any discussion on this? Heard earlier. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. We'll dispense with item 9.
He gets to go home to dinner now.
We still have a Subway. You can take some home.
Big bucks.
All right, let's move on to reports of standing committees. Ways and Means Committee met on Tuesday, the 22nd. We subsequently have received the financial summary statements, and Debbie's going to follow along, see if I do this right. All right. In the month of August, year-to-date, we are 2 months into the year, which is 17% of the year. So on our general fund expenses are running at 14% of budget versus the target of 17%. Our year-to-date revenues in the general fund, while low and anticipated to be low, are 107% of prior years. That's always good news. Rental licenses being the biggest piece of that since they were due, and they're running at 102% of prior year. And we've received some business licenses also, which was 147% of prior year, but not the big chunk of business licenses. Our cash position is resting in the general fund is resting at $3,112,000, which is 32% of the general fund, which is up from 29% last year. It's always good to be above 30%. I think that's our goal, at least at year end, and now through 2 months we're still there, so that's all good news. Anybody have any questions on the general fund and the financial statement there? We went on and talked about our tourism funds. Again, not much has happened. We did receive the August payment from the county for our 1% accommodations tax, and it resulted in $192,000, which, as our treasurer noted, is the largest single payment we have ever received, which is good news for prices. And I was looking at it today. I'm assuming, this is more of a question, does everybody get from the Visitors Bureau the
Vacation.
College of Charleston's workshop on vacations? So you've obviously studied that and can see how the daily rate has changed significantly for activities, not only on our island, but in the beach communities in general. So prices have risen dramatically. So that's all good news. Hospitality tax was received and was less than last year, but more than 2014. We went on, and Councilman Ward wanted to point out that since June of 2011, the debt has been reduced from over $16 million in June 2011 to June of 2015. We're just a little over $10 million, so that's a reduction of $6 million in 5 years, and bodes well for the future, and we will have plans to reduce it even further as we move along. So, moving ahead, we also approved, and I'll make a motion to award a sole source contract to Coastal Science and Engineering in the amount of $198,741 for planning and permitting of the offshore dredging project for future beach restoration.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion on this? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. We went on to award a contract to Evanston Insurance Company in the amount of $5,300 to purchase liability insurance to cover services of our city's medical control physician. I'll make that as a motion.
Second.
Seconded. This insurance is not covered under our normal insurance. We've just found that out. And we do have to make sure our physician that supports our medical team, our fire response team, is adequately insured and covered. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. We went on to hear from, during a special session, discussion of internal control auditors. We received 3 bids from 3 competent audit firms. They came and presented to us. Each one had about 20 minutes to speak, and it was frankly amazing to me how similar their pattern was. And of course, one had the benefit, the second firm had the benefit of the first firm because they were in the room together. But the third firm that came in, Green, Finney, and Horton, wasn't in the room for either of the first 2, and basically is a carbon copy to a large extent. So all 3 are quite capable of doing the work, understood the issues the city is presenting to them, and
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion
please.
that we award the contract to Elliott Davis de Consimia.
Second.
All right.
I'd like to make a couple of comments, if I may.
All right, we have motion second. Go ahead.
If you were paying attention during the presentation, they said they were cutting their initial bill down 50%.
50%.
The smart CPAs do that to get in the door. And once you get in the door, I mean, we all do it. You want a long-term relationship with that client. And so you take a little bit up front. Secondly, in my opinion, looking at their governmental experience, it seemed like they were just a little bit better or had more experience than the other 2. And that's why I'm recommending Elliott Davis.
Thank you. I share those same comments, and I always prefer, not prefer, but if we have a different pair of eyes looking at some
Right,
of our
absolutely.
activities, that helps also. There's nothing against Green, Finney, and Horton, but who've been our auditors for quite a while, but if we have a different firm looking at this element of our business, I feel comfortable. Obviously, 50% discount makes it makes it attractive. It's almost like Walmart.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to say, and because of that, of course, theirs was the low bid.
Yes, and that makes it much
Makes it
easier
easy,
also,
right.
and not by a little bit, so it's fine. Anyone have anything else to say?
Just
Sandy,
had
please.
one question. On Green, Finney, and Horton, their estimated hours were so much more than everybody else. Is there a feeling for why they would say that? I mean, they are the ones that are most knowledgeable of all of our finances. I just wondered why they felt that it was going to be so much more than all the rest.
I can't believe any of them answered the question. It'll take a long time.
I would not have answered. I would not have, if it was me. I'm not an auditor. I would never have told anybody what my base hours were
Right,
in the
but
job.
they did, and I mean, it was
They did.
phenomenally
It was,
more.
well,
than the
2.5
others.
times.
Yeah.
Well, we asked every one of them.
I know, and they all answered,
And they all
which
answered.
I was surprised at. If we don't get what we want out of Elliott Davis because they run out of time or they find something, we always have the opportunity to go back and buy more time, if you will, if we think that's approved. It would take a lot more time for them to get up to the Green Finian Horton price. So I think we're getting a good deal here, and we'll get well served by the hours they put in. Okay, any other questions? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. They're going after it. One file down. We went into a discussion of the FY15 net results. We had a positive result for the year. We decided at Ways and Means to move $75,000 of our $900,000 result in the general fund, move that to disaster recovery, and move another, the remainder, $825,000 into the unassigned capital projects fund. I'll make that as a motion here.
Second.
Motion and seconded. We had a lot of discussion, and I believe we're all pointed in a similar direction. We would like to, when we get to the point, which is the 1st of 2016, look hard at using some of those funds to pay down part of the debt we have on Fire Station 2, and at that time, get it down to a level where we can refinance that debt to a something less than the 4%, 3.99% that we have right now. And if we can do that, we'll save on interest and have paid down some of the principal as well, and that's good use of the funds that we're moving into the capital projects.
Mayor, excuse me,
Please.
Isn't that interest rate like 1.62 projected or somewhere close to that?
I think that's the most recent interest rate we received. I don't know, we haven't asked. I mean,
Right. It'll be something close to that, so substantial.
Mentally, I've got it in half, 4 to 2.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Could be better. I don't know what's going to happen between now and the first of the year. We can't do anything until January 1st, but if we can cut it in half, it's a big number.
Right.
And particularly if we pay down part of the principal as well. So I think that's well served. So all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No? All right, motion carries. Thank you. We went on, I'll cover it here. We discussed the Ways and Means, and then subsequently at our special council meeting, considered the impact of the reassessment on the properties on the island. And overall, more assessments went down than up as a result to redistribute the income we derive from property taxes. We adjusted the millage to 24.7 mils going forward, and that's in place right now. We're still going to be short about $90,000 from our projected, what we expected in the budget from the property tax, but it's something I think we can work through and live with. So that was decided and moved on. So, all right, and that's the report from Ways and Means. Questions? None? Move on to public safety.
Thank you, Mayor. Public Safety Committee met Wednesday, September 9th. Under citizens' comments, we had the folks for the HBO production vice principals that the mayor told you about earlier were on the agenda, and we approved it. Of course, it was later approved by full council. We, under old business, we discussed consideration of parallel parking on both sides of Palm Boulevard. Talked about 4 feet from the pavement on Palm Boulevard. And we did have a unanimous motion to implement no parking within 4 feet of pavement on the land side of the boulevard between 21st Avenue and 41st Avenue. We still need to run that by the SCDOT.
DOT, sure.
So I think we would.
We've already approved it.
We got permission,
Got
okay.
permission.
So I will go ahead and make that a motion that we move to implement no parking within 4 feet of the pavement on the land side of Palm Boulevard.
second.
We have a motion and second. It's all good. It just means we're going to have to put up, what, another 12 signs? Or I don't know how we're going to sign that sucker. most of the traffic is heading west to east, and when you, I'm not a sign expert, but most times you put the sign coming the other way, and so we're going to have to back-to-back signs or something, I don't know.
Question?
I don't know. Yes?
Does this address, have we decided to take away parallel parking and perpendicular parking, or is this just 4 feet off and we're
Just
still parking?
4 feet off.
4 feet.
So we're still parking
Right.
perpendicular?
Well, I think right now, there's no preferred way of parking on the land side.
Okay, I just want to be sure what I'm voting for. Okay.
Could be the one, this is only the 4
Because
feet.
there's been a lot of pros and
off the
cons
pavement.
about both thoughts about that.
We're discussing 4 feet. We've not discussed whether we stripe it. I look at Norma Jean, who just rolled onto the chair over there. But let's take one thing at a time. Let's get it approved.
Was parallel parking discussed?
Yeah,
It was.
It was?
not supported. It's in the minutes. The problem with parallel parking there is, if you just come down there tonight, there were people parallel parked there, and they're virtually right on the road. They weren't 4 feet off. It's dangerous for everybody.
I think the thinking for me was, let's get the 4 feet off first, and then move forward with whatever else.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before we leave that subject, though, I would like to clarify that, I did talk to SCDOT, and they would prefer parallel parking on both sides of the road. And I also had mentioned to the police chief his position, and he also felt parallel parking was a safer way. But, so Jimmy, to answer your question, we did discuss it heavily.
A motion for 4 feet?
Yeah, we'll just talk about it later.
We can always bring it back up. One of the things that, and I don't know if it's possible, Chief, perhaps, but when you have a sign that says parking 4 foot, is there any way that that sign can be the location?
4 feet.
4 feet off the road to make it somewhat easy, so people know there's no parking 4 foot from the road, and that sign is the indicator of where it's supposed to be. Because sometimes they're set back, sometimes they're set closer. Sometimes it's just kind of staggering. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know.
They want to be this high to have rides.
Yeah, there'll have to be an encroachment permit,
Yeah,
and so
DOT
we'll
will
have to do whatever they dictate in the
Right.
encroachment.
So I don't mind. I mean, it's back and forth all over, but.
I think if we're going to do this, we'll have to sign it appropriately, and I think we need to replace the signs on the water side also. Many of them are faded, and you can hardly read them. Those of us that are trained can know exactly what they are, but I imagine others have difficulty. All right, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
We discussed the consideration of a crosswalk between Breach Inlet and 10th Avenue. The area we're looking at right now is in the vicinity of Merritt Boulevard. That's where the largest number of residences are located. They're kind of strung out, single file all the way down Palm. We have not made a definitive decision on that yet. We're gaining some additional information, and we'll be discussing it next month. We did get an update on the golf cart path between 20th Avenue and the Island Center. Linda, you may want to go ahead, and you had a lot of verbiage for us on that.
Okay, so at the public safety meeting, one of the things that I needed to get some input from the committee on was where to concentrate our efforts, because we've got a golf cart traversing problem both between 20th and the shopping center, and then on the opposite side of the street. And we have to accomplish all the same goals to do either one, and I've asked the committee to give me some direction about how to prioritize those. And the committee's direction was that we should concentrate our work on the one between 20th and the shopping center first. And so in order to do that, we're trying to put together a budget for what it will take to actually make the improvements there, because we will have to make a change to the elevation, because I'm sure you all have seen between the sidewalk and where the private property starts, it's I guess about a 30-degree angle or so. So there's either got to be something constructed there, or some earthen areas have to be bound up. We will have to get an encroachment permit from DOT, and there is also infrastructure that is underground there that will have to be relocated, and some above overhead that would have to be relocated. So right now, we're in the process of putting together a budget to get all of those things done, and then we'll bring that forward, through the committee process to make a decision about whether or not we're going to be able to fund it.
We also discussed straddling the drainage ditch at the far end of the property, and there were several things. One being that it's kind of a dark, shady place, which, as far as security goes, we had a concern. Also, it could become a gathering place for youth, teenagers, undesirables. Didn't think that was the safest place. And the most people, if they're going to the shopping center now, are illegally going to it on the path that we decided upon.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes.
Are we talking about widening the sidewalk that's there?
Yes.
Or building a separate?
It will be separate to the sidewalk. You can't ride on the sidewalk. So
Well, we
that's-
could make the sidewalk a multi-use path, but in doing that, we would have to put a barrier, wouldn't we, between the road and the...
We were looking to try to create something that looked different from the sidewalk.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
I remember, and I guess it was when we were dealing with the connector, whether we could put a bike path on the connector. So we would have to have a separation. We would have to have a barrier.
Well, I think right now, according to that change in the law about the golf carts, because we have the curb and gutter there.
That would be sufficient.
That would be sufficient.
Sandy?
My only concern is in trying to have a walkway here and then a pathway for vehicles right next to it, and the road right here. In my mind, putting it at the back of the property where you're not anywhere near the road, and I realize it's in the back of the property and we might have to put lighting or whatever it is there, but it would seem that would be safer. I don't understand the safety value of putting it in the front. I think we're going to have people still who are going to go on the walkway, because if there's another cart on that, they're going to go right on the walkway. And then again, we've got the curbing and the road right next there. And Marty, when you mentioned it, you said straddle the easement back there? We don't.
The drainage ditch itself.
But we own the property in front of the drainage ditch, correct? I mean, we own that whole lot.
But you have to get
have
from
access
20th.
from 20th.
So it's the access from 20th that straddles.
All the way down the
All the way
ditch
down the
until we
ditch.
get to the
Right.
back
Till
of
we
the
get to the back of our property.
17.
Then it can be taken anywhere on our property.
Well, I guess
Still
we'd
pretty
have to
heavily
look at
wooded
the-
back there on that section.
I would think we would have to look at the restrictions
On the
park-
Greenbelt property.
Right.
Greenbelt property.
But it's still private, those ditches are private property. It's a,
Right.
it's an
Yeah.
encroachment they
It's a
have.
drainage
It's a drainage easement, not a transportation.
We would have to
easement.
get a separate easement, and that's not necessarily given, that the
No,
property owners
the
would...
property owners have to give it up.
Right.
And so it's private property to the middle of that ditch.
That's kind of like on Ocean Boulevard where you have some of those houses that have a 3-foot easement on each side, and there's a walkway
They
going.
still own the property. but
Right.
it's an
But
easement.
here we're asking about putting a bridge.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And on the property where we're going to put this path, it is on our property? Or it's again?
DOT right away.
DOT
right
right
away.
away.
It's still not to our property line for the park?
No.
Okay.
And in fact, we'll have to have a conversation with the property owners that abut the right of way.
So we're going to shift
Once we have a
the,
design.
we're going to shift the traffic over?
Not going to change the
I
traffic.
mean,
No.
huh?
The actual
road's gonna
road's
stay
not
the
going to
same.
change.
The road will not change?
The road will not change.
So we're going to be cutting into the other side of that? for this
Correct.
path, Okay.
Right.
All right.
Donnie has recently
To the other
mowed it. You
side.
can see.
Right.
It's
And we'll have room for two golf carts going opposite direction to go there with?
Well,
You think- he
that was
said-
our
he says
goal.
yes.
That was our goal. We actually had someone out there that has constructed a lot of the golf carts on the golf course at Wild Dunes, and he looked at it.
The
and
mayor
gave
has a
us
lot
some
of
opinions.
experience because he's always forgetting clubs and I'm going back the opposite way on the golf course, so.
We're keeping score, that's one.
One question?
Yeah.
The only thing that's really an obstacle is the fire hydrant? Does that have to be moved?
We have power line too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Power line.
I would say that we really don't know what all utilities are there. Once we look at it closer,
Okay.
you don't do any digging or putting posts or anything in anywhere unless you call the folks to check for underground, whatever could be under there, and there may be a lot of things under there.
Are we in position to bury these power lines so we don't have to worry
They are
about a
under-
hurricane?
It's basically underground there. It's a pole that comes across and serves the other side of the road. It comes up. That was the new circuit that put in.
We have had a meeting, at least one meeting with SCE&G, and we're waiting on information back from them.
I think we could take from this is a lot of work left in this.
But we're moving.
If nothing else, the money may be enough.
Won't be done this
Hundreds of
Right.
thousands, that was what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, then we went into the departmental reports. Fire Department Chief Graham gave. We talked about the insurance carrier, which we approved the additional insurance for our medical control physician. Another part of her report, there was a lightning strike at a residence in Ocean Boulevard. Power was secured, and residents were advised to contact a repair service. Personnel responded to a possible suicide. Personnel responded to 115 calls in August, 47 of which were EMS calls. 30 fire inspections were performed and located 27 violations. The largest expenditure maintenance expenses was the annual maintenance of our 4 AEDs. The department successfully completed its annual medical response inspection conducted by the Department of Health and Environmental Control. And Captain Maybach met with a representative of the state's pharmacy board for an inspection of both stations for a certification as a non-dispensing medicine outlet. And there were many station tours conducted in August for Iowan guests. Police Department Chief Buchanan said we've had an uptick in thefts from vehicles, which could be avoided if people would lock their vehicles. Please lock your vehicles. I would find it embarrassing to have something taken out of my truck because I left it in my yard unlocked.
Did that happen?
And I probably have been embarrassed by that before. Another thing they were looking into was that someone paid someone on Craigslist $1,150 to rent a house that the person did not own. He was not an agent for, so it was just downright fraud. So if you're going to go to Craigslist, make sure you know what you're getting. On August 4th, the department hosted its first national night out at the rec center. Had about 200 people in attendance, and the intention of the event was bringing the community and law enforcement together and building stronger community relationships. Department Detective Sergeant Swain conducted an interview with local media about the property and rental frauds and on the Craigslist. Officers assigned to conduct enforcement on the beach to address citizens' concerns of littering and alcohol and glass on the beach issued 20 citations for alcohol on the beach during the month of August. We had 4 folks, PFC Hardy, Detective Swain, Detective Tarr, Sergeant Thompson, and PFC Reynolds, which is 5, were recognized for outstanding performance and a positive representation of the department. Dispatchers responded to a total of 4,929 calls, 3,788 with the police department. In August, there were 304 traffic stops, which resulted in 101 tickets. Year-to-date, there have been 84 traffic collisions, which is an increase of almost 25% over last year. I understand a lot of these collisions are happening on the connector. Of the 55 arrests, 19 were for liquor law violations. There were 28 noise complaints, which resulted in 15 warnings and 4 tickets. Our next meeting is 9:30 a.m., Thursday, October 8th, in the second floor conference room. Any questions?
Okay, I only have one comment. I attended a meeting today, it was in Columbia, and the subject of Airbnb was brought up again. I know we've asked Douglas, did we just lose Doug? We
He's
just lost-
coming back. I just sent him to get a map.
Well, he's already on it. We've asked him to stay on top of that, look at what's happening with Airbnb. One of the subjects was brought up was public safety issues with people renting couches or bedrooms in their homes, et cetera. There's no vetting of who's coming to stay in your property or anything else. What are the safety issues there? Independent of the financial issues of whether they're paying the appropriate taxes,
Right.
have the appropriate licenses, et cetera. So the city of Charleston's all over this. I'm talking about Airbnb, one of your new favorite subjects.
Just so
I
happens.
think we'll need it for later.
The gentleman from the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism for the state, he was all over this. Apparently, it's a big issue throughout the state now. And he said in the Asheville area in North Carolina, Airbnb said they did $1.2 million in revenue in 1 month in the spring, just through someone renting their second bedroom or third bedroom or whatever. So it's not just a South Carolina problem, it's not just an Isle of Palms problem, it's a general problem that is being addressed. And apparently, unlike some other of these firms, Airbnb is being responsive and trying to work with the appropriate people. So, I'm just reminding you to stay on top of it. It's both a public safety issue, I suspect, as well as a financial licensing issue. Okay. Anything else for public safety?
No, sir.
Public Works, please.
Thank you, sir. Public Works Committee met 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, September 8, 2015. All committee members were present. We had departmental reports by Director Pitts. With August being the end of the season, the focus for Public Works was cleaning the beach. Director Pitts announced that the skid steer had been received and put to use, and the director reported that Edie's had begun removal of vegetation from the ditches. In August, the garbage was tapering off, and he was nearly caught up with all the debris collection on the island. Old business, we had an update of the 21st Avenue handicap parking space flooding, which we've been talking about for several months now. And Administrator Tucker informed the committee that the county and SCDOT had visited the site, and initial cost for a recommended fix was in the neighborhood of $3,704 for labor and materials. Well, that didn't go over too smooth with the committee because, well, I think we had a consensus that we felt like they did, as Councilmember Loftus said, that did a lousy job in the first place. And we want them to go back and revisit this. In fact, there was a motion made by Councilmember Loftus, moved to take this issue to a higher authority at Charleston County to have the county pay for the work and perform the necessary work as needed. And the motion passed unanimously. Then we had an update on NPDS improvements at the Public Works site. The biggest thing that came up about it was a suggestion to move the fence, to relocate around the big oak tree there. And since space was at a premium there, we all felt like that was a good idea. We had a discussion of obstructions in the right-of-way. And it's a carryover from the August meeting, and I imagine it's going to be carrying over for several meetings to go. The administrator stated that Palm Boulevard was his focus initially, but the actions have not been limited to Palm. Review of ordinances and service delivery to other local governments, and we have a consideration to come out of that of an intergovernmental agreement with Charleston County for disaster debris removal. Mr. Mayor, you want to entertain a motion on that at this point?
So we have a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement for disaster debris removal from the city.
And can we make that subject to, we're still, lawyers are still lawyering together, so subject to changes.
I'll make that motion with those lawyers agreeing.
Okay. We The county
Second.
attorney was going to call me back today, and I didn't hear from him, so hopefully tomorrow we can resolve the last.
Okay, we have a motion.
And a second.
And a second. This agreement that Charleston County has entered into with other municipalities. I believe.
That's correct.
Although ours may wind up being different wording than theirs.
Better word.
Some of it is just typos, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
nothing major, but, you know, you can't
Okay, so a motion, any discussion on this? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Under new business, we talked about parallel parking.
Where are we with Phillips and Jordan dealing with? I saw that in your minutes here.
I'll give that update.
Yeah.
Well, the reason, it actually, based on the minutes, it would have come forward to council meeting because the committee did make a recommendation that we also contract with Phillips and Jordan. They are the debris contractor for SCDOT now, so they are a state contractor. So we technically could use our ability to, bounce off of a state contract to contract with them. I didn't have any numbers yet, though, to bring forward for tonight, and so because I didn't have any expense numbers, I haven't actually seen that contract yet. I didn't include it on the agenda, but sort of foreshadowing, we certainly think if that is doable within our procurement, that would be a good idea. Phillips and Jordan is who helped us in an emergency once before,
Correct.
and they did a really fine job for the city.
And they were here long before the county provided any assets, so.
Yeah, I think it's prudent upon us to go ahead and get this all lined up and deal with now. For those of y'all that were here during Hugo, the city parking lots, if you can remember, they were 30 feet high, burning piles of debris for months because we couldn't get it off the island. We're stuck with it.
All right,
Okay,
sorry.
good, that's okay. New business, parallel parking on Palm Boulevard. We just discussed that on the public safety. And we'd like to end on a good note with miscellaneous business. And we have CDTC funding, announcement of a grant award. Charleston County Transportation Committee awarded the City of Isle Palms $100,000 towards phase 1 of drainage project. So that's good news.
Oh, that's excellent news, right?
Yes,
We've been dry for a couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like to congratulate the administrator on that. And our next meeting date will be 5:30 p.m., October 7th. End of my report.
So that's the second $100,000 we've gotten from CPC, so maybe we're on a roll now. The last one was a couple of years ago.
And the regional advocacy meeting that the Municipal Association just had, one of the things that they urged us to do was to get better acquainted with our county transportation committee, because in the last budget cycle, they received a significant additional allocation. So, we've got good reason to kind of be pushing them. And one of the requests that I made was that they give us all the contact information for that committee, because I think online it lists their names, but I don't think it lists the actual contact information for the individuals.
I went before the CCC back a couple of years ago, and I didn't recognize anyone.
Yeah, they're all.
I don't know where they came from. So we have no leverage. It's really getting a.
We got
All
to
right, let's go into Recreation Committee, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recreation met on September 1st at 9 a.m. All members of the committee were present. The previous minutes were approved and had no citizens' comments. Under Director Page's report, she commented that the time of the year where they are really busy again with all fall sports. All the existing adult programs continue through the summer months, and that our exercise and fitness classes are all doing well. We have several new programs soon to start: a beginner art class, a beach education series, and a beginner photography class. Our city wellness volleyball game was canceled due to weather. We seem to have a lot of that every now and then. But I'm sure they'll find something else for our challenge.
We'd have made toast out of the fire department. I know that.
Oh, did y'all hear that?
Just threw down the gauntlet.
I mean, that's a challenge right there. Okay. Where was I? The teenagers held their first.
Don't interrupt it, please.
You know I'm not going to go too long tonight. The teenagers held their first meeting, and the rec department announced that they would take over the responsibility of running the whole program, which is a great thing. The teenagers have been trying to bring the food and stuff like that, and it's just a lot easier for the recreation department really to handle the whole program. Also, the rec center held its annual wellness fair with a good turnout. We had 57 members of the public donate blood, which is always in demand. If you look at me, I have. We won't go there. The rec held its first middle school dance on September the 18th, and we had about 130 students attend, and it went very smoothly.
Good.
Upcoming events include Ghostly Tide Tales on October 16th. We have our pumpkin painting contest on October 26th, and this also tends to be very competitive amongst the city employees and departments, so get ready. And of course, our annual Halloween carnival will be held on what other date? October 31st. This is always a big one. In fact, I rarely get any more trick-or-treaters because of this event. And last but not least, our annual Holiday Street Festival, which Norma Jean and gang always do a jam-up job with rides, foods, items for sale, and of course, Santa Claus. Athletics are in full swing. Basketball, softball, soccer, table tennis are all going on. We have 225 youths playing soccer, of which 136 are island residents. Our 17th annual half rubber contest tournament had 12 teams, of which many were from out of town. Plus our soccer and volleyball camps were held in August, were all successful. I also want to point out that one of our key employees, Sheila Redmond at the rec department, has been out ill, and everybody else at the department has filled in her position and taken care of the building, and it looks just as good as ever. So my hat's off to Norma Jean and staff. There was no old business. Under new business, the Exchange Club offered the recreation building a freedom shrine down the hallway. After a lengthy discussion by all committee members and Director Page, it was felt that maybe old photographs of the island would be better suited. The most desired seems to be finding a way to find or to have the old photos of the island to be displayed for everyone to see, but we need to find a format in which they will last for years to come. There was no miscellaneous business. Our next meeting is Monday, October 5th, 9 a.m. So ends my report, and it's probably a record time.
4 minutes. 4 minutes.
The only one thing I want to just add to Jimmy's, and he missed it on his next page, is we do have a connector run this.
Oh, minor
Saturday.
detail, and I will be working on it.
Between the exchange, you got it.
Minor detail wasn't on my actual report itself, but it is this weekend.
It is this weekend, 8 o'clock. Be there bright, and, well, at least be there. Yes, and the connector will close at 7 and will open only after the last runner or walker has emerged successfully from the connector fouls.
I'll be helping keeping time at the finish line, so if anybody wants to win.
It's still not too late to register. So if you're not signed up.
This is a collaborative effort with the Exchange Club and our rec department and Mount Pleasant, et cetera. So it's a very worthwhile thing. How many do we expect? A couple thousand?
2 days ago, we had 971 to pre-register, which is a record.
So we still expect a couple thousand?
We expect probably 1,500.
Okay. A couple thousand. I round up.
Mayor, a couple comments.
Michael.
First of all, I think the rec center is big enough to do what we want to do, and I'm a real big advocate of the history of the island and showing us, but I also think what the Exchange Club has offered as far as the freedom, that display, I mean, we should be able to do both. I don't know why we can't do both.
Well, we have asked about having a rolling tape that we could put in the lobby, and we were told that they don't have something like that available. I think that was the discussion we talked about.
I did inquire with the National. They don't have such an item.
A virtual.
A virtual
version.
rolling tape.
Well,
They
rather
do
than
not.
shut the door and maybe figure out a way to make it, but I think both are very good ideas, and we
Right.
should probably do that. Also, do we ever go back and look at programs in the rec department and see how they're working historical? Do we keep spreadsheets that show attendance from year after year, say, of the teenage dance and different meetings? Do we have that so we can, my question is, once we put something in place and it's been going on for a while, is it still relevant, or should we be replacing some events with some other events?
I think the rec department is, and according, I also referred to Norma Jean on this, but it seems to be growing in our programs. Our programs seem to be filled. We got a lot of outside people coming in, but we also give all Palms residents 2 weeks advance notice to sign up first.
I'm not saying, what I'm saying is I think we should prepare a ongoing sheet that could be shared with the committee to let us know, with the council, to let us know how those programs are going on a regular basis. Where, for example, the dances are easy. We know what the attendance is each dance, and we can just track it that way, and then periodically share that information. And a case in point, City Council voted to pay money to have a special training program with the fire department, sponsored by the rec. But we haven't talked about that since, so are we still getting, what's the attendance of that? Is it something that's worthwhile? Is it relevant, or is it not relevant anymore?
Yeah.
Well,
Let Norma Jean. You have it?
well, it's always in the Public Safety Committee, it's announced how many people are participating every month. So we have and it's really high. So it's in there.
You
Maybe I
asked
should
more
be
than
talking to the boss, I'm sorry.
you asked more than one question, so I'll try to answer them all. We do rotate classes. If a class isn't going well, we drop it and we try something else. As far as a spreadsheet, we don't really have a spreadsheet, but if you look in your monthly report, every class, it says how many people participated in that class that month. Now, some of the classes, it may say 6 people, but that may be the max for that class. It just depends on what the class is. But if a class isn't going well, we don't keep going just to offer that class. We do change it. But as far as a spreadsheet, no. But it's in your monthly reports every month. Tells you exactly how many people are in each class.
But it's not relevant. You don't have a point of reference with it. That's what I'm saying. Is there, what we did, compared to this year to last year or whatever, there's no point of reference to see how we're doing, that type of thing.
Well, that isn't that difficult either, because I keep a spreadsheet, if you will, of the instructors and what they make, and I can compare from year to year because they're paid by the revenues that are generated from the participants in those classes. So I can look at the revenues that or the pay that they've received and tell what the numbers were. And it's pretty constant with the good classes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
One last thing, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
As for the bridge run this weekend, not only is it the Exchange Club, not only is it the Recreation Department, but the Police Department and the Fire Department are all critical players in this event.
Let's not forget the town of Mount Pleasant, too,
Oh, yeah.
because they work with us as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Patrick?
Just real briefly, in terms of the Freedom Shrine, we're in a discussion and hope to bring a proposal to the administrator as the City Hall is our seat of government, maybe to do something in this building with the Freedom Shrine. It doesn't get the traffic of the Recreation Center, but I think it has some merit, scaled down Freedom Shrine. So we're not necessarily giving up that project.
Okay. Well, now it's your time. Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. We met on September 8th. Minutes were approved from the previous meeting. The first item was the consideration of job description changes. In the fire department, Chief Graham stated that the rationale behind the changes requested would require firefighters with new hires to have an EMT certification
before being considered for a promotion to engineer. You fortunately had the benefit of a description of the acronyms. I was looking them up, and so Chief Graham provided that after our personnel meeting. It was there are a lot of acronyms, but we discussed it at length. The chief was there to answer any of the questions, and I would entertain a motion to, or I'll make that motion to accept the job description changes as presented.
Second.
Motion and seconded. You've all had a chance to read through it. Any questions, concerns? None heard. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Our next discussion was a discussion of the appointments to boards and commissions. We do have some vacancies, either people moving off the island or people that wish not to continue in that role. We had the opportunity to, over April 15th and 17th, not April, excuse me, September 15th and 17th, to interview some additional folks. We will be discussing these at our next meeting and bring recommendations to the Ways and Means meeting.
The council.
To council.
To council, excuse me, what did I say?
Ways and Means.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. In terms of employee recognition, we received a very nice letter from Christine Donovan praising the fire department and Chief Graham in particular. On the late evening of June 24th, the department received a call of a heavy storm damage and ceilings collapsing, and a woman was there by herself and a couple children. She was very pleased with the response of the fire department, and she was even particularly more pleased that they came back to check on her the next day. And her comment, what a joy and privilege it is to live in a community where city employees go above and beyond what would be expected to help citizens. Thank you for your long and ongoing leadership, this is Chief Graham, of such a fine department. Please relay my appreciation to all of those involved. Warm regards, Christine Donovan, 31 26th Avenue.
Here, here. Very good.
Okay, sweepstakes winners. For the safety sweepstakes is Recreation is Andy Sinwald. Fire Department was Corporal Roger Eagle. Captain. Excuse me, Captain. Police Department, Sergeant Craig Thompson. And Public Works, Willie Powell.
Excellent. Okay, questions for personnel?
Our next meeting is October 5th.
All right, good. Moving on, let's go to real property.
Thank you, Mayor. Real Property met September 5th. All members were present. On the first item on the agenda, comments for the marina tenants. Jay Clark from the Morgan Creek Grill told the committee he was putting together a proposal to amend the lease and expecting to have it available for the October Real Property meeting. Under old business, we discussed handicap parking at 42nd Avenue. Douglas Carr gave a committee update of the project, and IOP would need a permit from SCDOT before any construction on the path. Also, OCRM would be involved in the project, plus ADA regulations require access to for any type of structure needs to be 24 inches above the dunes. The path would end on soft sand, and there would not be any staging area for people to sit at the end of the path to look at the ocean or the beach. Councilman Buchanan expressed concern about the cost of the project. Update on Carmen R. Bunch Park. The city administrator showed the committee a proposal for signage and thought should have two signs on the property, one for the park itself and the other for the story of Carmen and her contribution to the city. I felt that the original sign was too large for the property, and since it is a passive park, and asked the city administrator to go back to the well and come up with some other ideas with that. Under new business, we also discussed the cod path on 20th. I think we've covered on 20th Avenue to Island Center. I think we covered that pretty well in the meeting already today. Also, Coastal Science Engineering, this committee unanimously voted $198,000 for the project to move forward, and we move forward with that. Under tenant rent reports, all tenants are current. We also talked about an encroachment on the beach access path on 23rd Avenue, and also talked about Front Beach property owners as far as a trail that's used for picking up trash and recycling. The property owners are concerned that the city is going to be making a road in the dunes. The committee went into executive session to discuss these two items, and we came out of executive session, and no action was taken by the committee at that time. And the next meeting is scheduled for October 8th at 5:30 p.m.
Very good. Any questions for real property?
One question, please. On the park, Carmen Bunch Park, we probably cut 2/3 of it. Any reason why we can't cut some more of it? You know, it's a 1.1 acre lot, and I'd probably say we cut maybe half an acre.
I remember some of the residents who wanted to have the absolute natural buffer to be maintained.
Okay.
I believe it was.
Is my recollection correct?
Yep. Yeah. Plus, also keep expenses down.
I mean, we just keep the whole center of it cut, and the front's natural and the back is natural. And so
The
why are
front
we
is a
even
wildflower garden.
So why are we even cutting the
No,
whole
no,
thing?
you got to hear what Linda said. The front is a wildflower garden. I mean,
Right.
that's-
Some of our residents went to the site and harvested some of the plants that were there, and then nurtured them and replanted them. And on at least one occasion, they have gone in and weeded the wildflower garden. But that's what it's supposed to be, is a wildflower garden.
Well, maybe one suggestion to the committee is to plant plants that will attract butterflies.
Well, that's
'Cause
part of the
butter-
wildflower garden.
Butterflies are.
He wants more butterflies.
More butterflies. Thank you.
Okay, moving from butterflies to, you've had minutes from the various boards and commissions. No comments there, I see. We'll move on to item 10, introduction of new bills and resolutions. In your package, you have a ordinance 2015-12 for first reading by title only, an ordinance amending Title 5 Planning and Development, Chapter 4 zoning, Article 8, flood damage prevention. The City of Isle of Towns Code of Ordinances to update the city's flood damage prevention ordinance in accordance with the requirements of South Carolina Department of Natural Resources Flood Mitigation Program. I'll make that as a motion.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Have we got a marked up version to, I didn't see.
There's a red line, there should be a red line.
There should be a red line.
Oh, there it is. I was looking at the
Exhibit
back.
A is like
Yeah.
the clean version.
Yeah, I was looking at the wrong one. So you have some reading to do over the next series of weeks, but this will put us in line with the state's requirements.
Those are the minimum requirements that we
Right.
can do. We're doing the bare minimum of what they've requested.
I mean, is there any reason to do just a minimum? Could we go? We always like to exceed and
This is what Douglas
excel.
wanted.
How many hours would you like her to have?
And I prepared that document as well, so I think planning commission will have a run at this. And I guess Douglas and planning commission can decide how far we want to go. But for now, this is the bare minimum, and we can always add to it before second reading, so.
All right, I'm assuming we need to do this to maintain our CRS rating.
Not CRS related, this is just the minimum requirements.
Okay, fine.
CRS is.
All right, all in favor of the first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard? Since I did say the word, I just want to compliment Douglas. Of course, he doesn't know how he did it, but he got our CRS rating improved from a 7 to a 6, which will eventually transcend into a lower flood insurance premium for all residents on the island. I don't know how to put that in dollar terms, but it'll be, I think you estimated $100 to $200 a property.
The average of the savings out for each policy is about $140.
$140.
Okay.
which is not, in today's world, take all contributions.
Let's bring mine down to 3,000.
And I think, based on some discussions we had yesterday, et cetera, I think we need to revisit the whole flood insurance status and where everybody is in the bigger waters and subsequent, and what's happening in the future here, because rates are going up. Are we about to hit a wall again, or whatever? So we'll be visiting on that subject again. May have to have a forum to bring everybody together. All right, no other miscellaneous business. We are going to have another meeting on October 27th at 6 o'clock. I am going to ask for motion to go into executive session in accordance with South Carolina Code Section 30-4-70A2 to receive legal advice related to potential claims concerning the PDD district, a potential claim concerning the city's beach access at 23rd, and a potential claim concerning the city's access to the beach for purposes of serving garbage and recycling cans. Whew. I'll make that.
Second.
All right. All in favor of executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. We're now in executive session.
No, I told them.
The first half of our day is...